frequent traveler, I cannot tell you how valuable that transfer has been to me, because we have suddenly noticed that Ontario Airport has so many more flights and better connections, and I hope that we will continue to see that in the coming years. Michael holds a bachelor's degree from UCR, and he has a master's of public administration degree from Princeton University. A native Riversider and a grandson of Mexican immigrants, his parents instilled in him a belief that what you can accomplish is a function of what you can learn and what you believe in. We are honored to have him with us today. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Michael Huerta to the stage.
Well, thank you very much, Anil, for that very kind introduction. And to all of you, tonight's MPP candidates, it's an honor to share this very, very special evening with all of you. You know, this is a day of recognition of, I'm sure, countless hours that you all put in and all the work that you did to get here. I'm sure many of you are feeling also that this is a day of gratitude for all those people that stood beside you and who cheered on your successes and bucked you up when you were feeling maybe not quite as successful. But I think most importantly, this is a day of celebration for this achievement and for the incredibly bright futures ahead for each and every one of you. So please, give yourselves a round of applause. Stand up and cheer. Now, with all that being said, this day might also come with another feeling. A feeling that's a lot harder to talk about over dinner or at graduation parties. When you come up on the stage a little bit later and that hood goes over your shoulders, it might feel heavy. Heavy with the weight of expectations. Those expectations that you have from yourself, maybe from your family, from this university, and even from this nation. So it only makes sense that you might be asking yourself, what on earth have I gotten myself into? Now, I'll be the first to admit, this is a tough moment for public service professionals. People are losing faith in their institutions and in their leaders. A 2017 Pew Research study found that only 18% of Americans say that they can trust the federal government to do what is right just about always or most of the time. 18%. Yikes. That paints a pretty depressing picture if you're planning to devote your career to creating public policy, right? And there's not much agreement out there on a path forward. There are some people that want to return to the old norms, to a time when decisions were hashed out by powerful people behind closed doors. Yeah, might exclude a lot of people, but at least it's civilized. Then there are others who prefer to blow the whole system up, to vanquish their opponents, and to start rebuilding from scratch. It might come with high costs, but might be effective. And then there are still others who just want to throw in the towel. They want to write off public service and devote their time to something else. It might be giving up, but at least there's a chance to do something that is productive. Now, I don't agree with any of those approaches, because no matter how skeptical Americans might be, there's no doubt of what we all want. What we want is a government that we can trust and a government that does right by the people. So we need transparent and we need inclusive decision-making. We need institutions that function, and we need leaders who are engaged and effective. So that's why I believe that there is another path forward. and it's an unconventional path, and it will seem counterintuitive to what we see on the news every day. But it's one that I've seen produce success time and time again during my more than 20-year career in government. It starts with a very simple idea. Assume positive intent. What does that mean? Well, assuming positive intent means putting aside the knee-jerk response that comes from encountering someone who has a different opinion than you do. We've all been there. Someone disagrees with us, and we think, they are wrong. They are stupid. We might even think they are evil. Well, this is a human response, but it's not a terribly productive one. Because to be an effective policymaker, you have to understand where other people are coming from. And this is especially true of your critics. Your critics are not your enemies. They're just people coming to the table with different backgrounds, different beliefs, different life experiences. Now, if you assume positive intent from them, you'll be able to engage in a real dialogue. And if you listen hard and you ask really good questions, I'm willing to bet that you'll find a lot of shared values underneath all those surface disagreements. And this is important. Shared values are a foundation. Shared values allow you to build. They allow you to build teams, for one thing, and those teams need to include your critics. And a solid team, one that includes all interested parties, is one of the most important things you need to create effective public policy. Now, in many ways, solving the policy challenge, figuring out the policy question, that's the easy part. I'm sure that you've worked out any number of solutions to thorny dilemmas during your time here at UC Riverside. But turning policy into practice, that is a lot harder. Policies don't get implemented in a vacuum where everyone behaves rationally. They have to exist in the real world, and the real world is full of people with competing interests and people who might be resistant to change. But all of those people need a seat at the table, because a seat at the table creates buy-in to the policy process. The more people are invested in the success of a project, the more likely it is to get off the ground. And as you're fine-tuning your plans, your critics will actually be more valuable to you than your allies. Why is that? Well, good ideas don't come out of an echo chamber filled with people all saying the same thing. They have to be pressure tested, and who better to do that than the people that don't necessarily agree with everything that you're saying. So you need members of your team who are willing to speak up and who are going to try to poke holes in your argument. And if you fill those holes in, I guarantee your ideas and your policy proposals will be stronger because of it. Never forget, government is a team sport. Now, this process isn't going to be without its frustrations. You're not going to get everything you want exactly the way you want it every time. And if you accept that now, you'll have a much longer and a much happier career. Compromise isn't a bad thing, and it's not a dirty word, despite what we hear from many of our political leaders today. Very few issues in life are black and white. Almost everything falls in the middle, in shades of gray. And if you get comfortable working in that gray area, you're well positioned to find the win-wins. The win-wins are solutions that just about everyone can feel okay, and sometimes they even feel good about them. I get something, you get something, and we all walk away knowing that our perspectives were heard and our perspectives were carefully considered. Now, you may only end up getting 80%, sometimes less, of what you started out wanting, and that's okay. Don't be afraid to take that deal, because 80% can be a victory. 80% is something you can come back to and something that you can build on later. This is how you turn policy ideas into policy practice, by assuming positive intent, building teams, and looking for the win-win. Now, you may think that this will only apply to you after a few years. Once you've established yourself in your field, you've climbed the ranks, you've achieved a position of authority. Nothing could be further from the truth. I believe there are two types of leaders. There are positional leaders, leaders that lead from their position on the org chart. What this means is it's a leader who says, I'm the boss, you have to do what I say. But there is a second type of leader, and I would argue it's a more effective type of leader, and that's one who leads through influence. When you lead through influence, you're committed to achieving the best outcomes for the most people. You're a team player who knows that shared success is more important than individual glory. And the best part of leading through influence, you can do it from any position in an organization. In fact, you can do it the second you walk out these doors. So, don't feel discouraged about the state of our political discourse or the sluggish pace of change, because I know you're going to be the people who are going to get out there and change the narrative. You're going to change the dialogue we're having as a nation right now, and you're going to change the policy process for the better. Now, of course, you'll need to take the time to learn the ropes in your new field or your new organization, but never accept that's the way we've always done things as the end of a conversation. You need to keep pushing, you need to keep contributing, and if you do that, you'll start moving the needle in policy change. Now, you've chosen a career in public service, and we all as a nation should thank you for that. It's not an easy position to be in, but we need your energy and we need your expertise, but we need something else, and we need that even more, and that is your optimism. The same optimism that the vast majority of Americans share. That the government can and that the government should solve problems and help people. So don't wait your turn. Your time is now. Get out there and show us what's possible, and we will all be cheering you on. Thank you and congratulations.